Hi, I'm Kaylee, and this is my October reading wrap-up. I read 37 books in October. I read 2 classics, 1 children's classic, 19 picture books, 6 nonfiction, 4 graphic novels, 2 children's chapter books, and 3 games or activity books. Please do subscribe to this channel and give this video a like because it really does help me and makes me feel glad to know that you like my videos. So, per usual, I'm going to start with the classics. I read The Life of Charlotte Bronte by Elizabeth Gaskell. I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. I've already talked about it in another video, and so you can click up there or down below or someplace to go and see all my thoughts about The Life of Charlotte Bronte. And then I read Shirley by Charlotte Bronte. I loved this one so much that it gave me a book hangover. I gave it 5 stars and I've already talked about it in a separate video, which I will link up above and down below in all the places. And so you can go over there to see my thoughts about Shirley. And for the children's classic, I read A Little Princess by Frances Hodgson Burnett. This is a reread for me. I think this is probably my 5th or 6th time reading this since I was a little girl. Little Sarah Crewe is a wealthy heiress and she's treated like a princess at Miss Minchin's school for young ladies. Her father loses all his money and dies abroad, so Sarah is forced to work as a servant. But she never stops behaving like a noble princess with kindness and generosity to everyone. I always love rereading this book. Sarah has such a gentle personality and she's so intelligent and kind. I love how imaginative she is and she's always making up funny stories. She really lives inside her head and she has this marvelous intuition. And of course I love the amusing supporting characters, Ermengarde and Becky and little Lottie. They're all starving for acceptance and love, and Sarah gives them that loving friendship and loyalty that they're craving. The plot is wonderful too. There is never a dull moment. I enjoy reading about all the details as poor Sarah adjusts to her new life as a drudge in the kitchen. And of course it's exciting to meet Ram Dass and the Indian gentleman next door, and all the magic that they create for little Sarah. I love the writing style and the light tone of the story. It deals with really somber themes like poverty and death, but the story is really bright and funny too. This book is always a delight and I gave it 5 stars. I read some comics from Avatar: The Last Airbender, North and South, parts 1, 2, and 3. I just love seeing more stories from the world of Avatar. I've been slowly reading my way through the comics after having watched the show 2 or 3 times. And I feel like I don't ever want it to end, so I only let myself read some Avatar comics every once in a while, like for a special treat. It's so exciting in all of these to see Team Avatar growing up and learning more. They deal with bigger and bigger problems as the series goes on. In this one, Katara and Sokka go home to the Southern Water Tribe. Their father has just been declared the chieftain of all of the Southern Water Tribes, and their little village is gone, replaced by a huge bustling city. Katara only wants to preserve the old traditions of her people, but Sokka is excited about the progress and the future that the Water Tribes could have. I just love how this comic blends harmony and conflict. There are a lot of happy, nostalgic moments as Katara and Sokka come home, but there are also a lot of things that have changed, and there's conflict because of that. They get thrown into the adventure and they have to call on Aang and the rest of Team Avatar to stop yet another war from starting. I love the plot and the characters and the excellent storytelling. The art style is fantastic. I gave all of these 5 stars. From here on out, the rest of the books in this video are all books that I received from a publisher in exchange for a free and honest review. I read a graphic novel called How I Survived 4 Nights on the Ice. This is a true story of how the author survived in the Arctic ice without any supplies or even water when his snowmobile broke down. I was really impressed with this story of courage and endurance. And I love the way that the narrator tells the story in a very simple and straightforward way. I loved learning some words from a native Arctic language. I'm gonna try to say it. It's Inuktitut, something, I know I said that wrong, but it was really interesting to learn about that culture. I like the artwork, but some of the designs of people's faces are a little strange. But the rest of the illustrations are wonderful. And it really captures the bleak terrain and the chilling cold of the Arctic. I gave this one 4 stars. Next, I have some nonfiction that I read in October. I read Story's Basic Country Skills. This book has everything you need to know about living in the country and even some things that we city folks could stand to learn. There are sections for home and kitchen and garden and barns and livestock. I gave this one 5 stars. I read the stupidest sports book of all time. This book details the weirdest, the craziest, and most insane things to ever happen in the history of sports, and I gave it 5 stars. I read Prepping 101, the 40 steps you can take to be prepared, protect your family, prepare for weather disasters, and be ready and resilient when emergencies arise. I gave it 5 stars. And I read Space Maps. This book has amazing maps of star constellations, our solar system, planets, galaxies, comets. It talks about gravity and dwarf planets and black holes, the moon and the history of space travel and spacecraft, and even ancient myths about constellations. The design of this book is beautiful. I loved the cool illustrations. But one thing I really hate in scientific books is when they talk about a scientific theory as if it was a fact. I mean, it's just so unethical and it's dishonest to present something in a book as if it was real when it's actually just a theory. And that's why I only gave this one 4 stars. I read Britannica's 5-minute really true stories for bedtime. This book gives true stories about the history of sleeping and nocturnal animals. Interesting bed designs from around the world. The largest bed and the biggest sleepover, with a dozen other amazing facts about the nighttime, and I gave it 4 stars. And of course, since it has been October, I read Weird But True Halloween, 300 Spooky Facts to Scare You Silly. I love the colorful illustrations and photos, and I gave this 5 stars. Then I read some games and activity books. The Kids Book of Paper Love. This amazing craft book has writing paper and little journals and scrapbook paper, stickers and bookmarks and cards and envelopes, postcards and decorative stamps, photo booth props and cutouts that you can use in dozens of creative projects. I gave it 5 stars. I can't wait to dive in with some of these projects. I also reviewed a Let the Sun Shine In 1,000-piece puzzle. This puzzle is beautifully designed, really thoughtfully crafted, and it comes with a little poster of the art that I thought was so sweet. It's cheerful and fun, and I gave it 5 stars. And I also reviewed Arctic Cards Build a Skyscraper. This game has 64 cards that are designed with the towers, windows, and roofs of a city skyscraper. I could not stop playing with this. I kept trying out different designs. It's really creative and fun, and I gave it 5 stars. I read a couple of children's chapter books. I read Bibbit Jumps. Bibbit is a frog who has forgotten how to swim. His frog friends try to teach him, but he just gets confused. So he perfects his jumping skills instead. Each chapter has around 7 pages, just right for little readers who are just learning to read on their own. And each chapter tells a separate little story about Bibbit and his little sister. However, each story is just kind of random and doesn't have a concrete ending. The style reminds me a little bit of the Winnie the Pooh books. It's just kind of dreamy and aimless. The illustrations are whimsical watercolor and ink, and they're kind of messy on purpose. I gave this one 3 stars. I read David Reibert's Delightfully Different Fairy Tales. This book includes the newly reimagined fairy tales of Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, and Rapunzel, but they're set in the 1920s, 1950s, and 1970s. I just love the way that these stories are retold in a fresh way, and the illustrations are amazing. I gave this 5 stars. Next, I have a few picture books. The first one I really want to talk about because I was actually disgusted by it. That was Paris Cat by Diane Hoffmeyer. Paris Cat runs into a dressmaker's shop to get out of the rain, and she starts to make her own fashion creations. She visits a theater and dances on stage with an erotic dancer, and eventually she opens her own dancing club. I gave this 1 star. If I could have given it -1 star, I would have done that. And the reason for my low rating was the erotic dancing in very revealing clothing. I understand the twisted lack of morality that would allow partial nudity in a children's picture book. I mean, erotic dancing, nudity in a children's book. It's completely inappropriate. It's beyond inappropriate. I'm so disappointed in this book. I just hated it. I can't believe something, the trash like this got published. I'm very upset. The next book sort of upset me too, but not as badly as the other one. Calvin gets the last word. Calvin searches the dictionary for the perfect words to describe his big brother, and he plots ways to play pranks on him and get his revenge. I didn't like the moral lessons in this book that say that it's okay to play pranks on people and basically bully them through these pranks. I think it's supposed to come across as mischievous, but it just seems really malicious. I do like the concept of a kid who is interested in learning new words, so I ended up giving it 3 stars. The next book, Now You See Me, Now You Don't, kind of takes that same theme of playing pranks on people, but I think has a much better, more positive and moral message. Chameleon uses his disguise skills to play pranks on his jungle friends. But when Frog plays a trick on Chameleon, Chameleon discovers that it's not really that fun when the tables are turned on you. And he promises that he's going to help his jungle friends instead of playing pranks and hurting others. I like this one so much better than the other one, and I gave this one 5 stars. I read Kindness Grows, a peek-through picture book. I always love books with die-cut openings, and this book uses those little openings so cleverly to lead you through the story into the next page. I gave it 5 stars. Scruff. A scruffy dog wishes that he were clean and neat. I gave this one 4 stars. I Believe in You. A unicorn helps a young dragon learn to fly by encouraging him to believe in himself and keep trying. This is adorable, and I gave it 5 stars. Teaching Mrs. Muddle. Kayla is anxious on her first day of kindergarten, but she quickly forgets her nerves when she has to help her clueless teacher, Mrs. Muddle. I gave this one 5 stars for sure. It's adorable. Bee by the Sea. Bee is obsessed with everything to do with lions, but she hates going to the beach because the sand is gritty and scratchy. Then Bee meets a magical sand lion who helps her appreciate all the fun you can have building sand castles and having fun at the beach. I gave it 5 stars. Rosa's Big Pizza Experiment. Rosa and her friends make pizza dough in this educational book that teaches how yeast reacts with water and flour to create bubbles. 5 stars. When Pumpkins Fly. At Halloween, the cargo plane flies in some pumpkins to a remote Arctic town for the school children to have at Halloween. This one is fun, but the ghostly spirits might be a little too scary for little kids. I gave it 4 stars. Pen Pals Forever. Freddie the Mouse and Annabelle the Elephant become pen pals, and they write letters back and forth. I loved the story, but I did not like the illustrations. I gave it 4 stars. I Am Darn Tough. A girl falls and scrapes her knee in a foot race, and she has to call up all her fortitude to continue to the end. This girl is fierce, and I love her courage. I gave it 4 stars. Last, the story of the white rhino. A rhino is taken into captivity and kept in a zoo. He thinks he is the last of his kind, but when he is released and returned to his wild home, he discovers that there are others like him. I gave this 4 stars. I read Why Do We Sing, Why Do We Pray, and Why Do We Worship? These books teach children what the Bible says about participating in church through singing and praying and worshiping together. I did like it, but it's really, really text heavy for a children's picture book, so I only gave each of these 3 stars. I read A Kindness Remembered, a Fable. This one has a really strange plot and just kind of weird illustrations. It's not great writing. It's okay. I gave it 2 stars. I read The 3 Wishes. A young man living in the far north stumbles into a hidden land of summer, where time stands still, and he acquires the magic to go back and visit his friends and family and leave gifts for them once a year. I just love this imaginative legend of the origins of Santa, and I gave it 4 stars. And I read a board book of This Little Piggy And I gave it 5 stars and it was very cute. And those are the 37 books that I read in October. Please leave me a comment down below and let me know what was one of your favorite books that you read this past month. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and remember, the right book in the right hands at the right time can change the world.